as I sit here processing and sitting with the emotions that come with losing my dear sister-in-law on Monday, I wanted to share a vulnerable video of this current moment and the lessons and growth that are coming from this experience. And so I think it's always important to allow your feelings to come up as needed. I also think it's equally important to make sure that you're wearing the right scuba gear when you dive deep into your emotions, because if you don't, you're going to drown. And the self-awareness piece of knowing how much you can handle in any given moment is very important, because we all process things differently. And so by asking yourself if what I'm feeling is making me sink too deep, if the answer is yes, then there's nothing wrong with creating a healthy distraction for yourself. Because if we face it head on and we're not equipped to handle that emotion, it can cause this sinking ship, right? And so we will end up, if we don't have the right scuba gear to handle these emotions, we will end up being taken over by this emotion, and then we start reacting and projecting our pain onto other people, right? We start reacting, we start doing things from this survival mode instead of taking a step back and allowing ourselves to refill our cup as needed, to regain that new gear that is required to take the next step. And so we don't get to choose when these feelings come up, right? It's going to come up, and that's regardless of where or what you are going through. And so what our role is to allow those emotions to come up, but we can choose how we want that emotion to affect us. And let me dive more deeper into that with what I've been experiencing this week. And so something happened and I got triggered and I was starting to sink, right? And so I could feel that, and I could feel my brain enhancing that experience with more pain surrounding it. And so it was amplified. And so now I was sitting here feeling super heavy to a point where I knew that I was starting to sink, right? And you know that feeling when it just feels like overwhelming, it feels like too much, and it takes over you, and you either get numb, you get frozen, you don't know what to do, okay? So that was happening to me. And so I had to sit with that for a moment. I had to take deep breaths, and I had to observe what exactly happened in that situation, but then also what stories my mind was making up about the situation and the judgments it was perceiving. And I think that's a really, really important tool to identify, is what the current situation is, what that trigger brought up in you, right? It could be a strong feeling. We don't have to identify what it is and where it is in our body, but just understand that you got triggered and now you are feeling these emotions. But then also identifying if your mind is amplifying that with more judgment by bringing whole other whirlwind of things to that specific situation. Our mind likes to keep us in survival mode. So when we are going through difficult challenges and situations, what happens is our mind is almost like it's addicted to the pain. And this is a subconscious thing that we've, carried over the years, right? And so we are not maybe aware of it because it becomes a pattern, it becomes a habit. And so by sitting there and monitoring how you're feeling and how deep you're feeling that, and if it's too much for you to handle, and if it is, like it was for me that one day, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have a distraction. It depends on what you need in the moment, and it's going to be hard to take that step in the moment because it's almost like you're creating a pattern interrupt. But to create that interrupt is difficult at the beginning because it's something new. It's something that is foreign, right, to our body, to our mind, because we're so used to reacting and sinking into these emotions. Or what we do is we completely ignore it, but then we never really process anything, right? And so a few tools that has helped me is to when I feel like it's a bit too much, I have to remove myself from the situation. So for example, I like to sit on the couch and meditate and process whatever it is that I'm feeling. However, I notice that if I do that for too long, then I start sinking into it. So I have to physically remove myself from the couch, whether it's stretching, going to play with Nala. I have to change my environment, change what it is that I'm doing, and it helps me stay above the water, re-equip myself as needed, filling up my cup, and then rinse and repeating when I need to relax again. That's one tip that is helpful, is changing your environment or changing what it is that you're doing when you are starting to sink too deep in that emotion. Number two, sometimes talking about it helps with someone that is like-minded, that can help honor where it is that you are, but then also help shift your perspective through the narrative, right? Whether that's your partner, a friend, or a professional. But what I also see with that is what that helps you do is to actually feel your emotion afterwards. So here's an example. When I was sitting on this couch this week, it was actually yesterday, and it was feeling too deep, and I knew I had to get myself off of the couch and stretch and, go play with Nala and the things that I usually do, and I couldn't, and my partner could see that. And so we started chatting, and through that conversation, I could feel myself starting to feel lighter, starting to not sink, starting to rise above the depth of the water. And then once he left, I was then able to process what it is that I was feeling. And so I started crying instead because I was very angry about a certain situation. And so he came back up, and obviously I cried it out, but I wasn't ready to cry it out earlier because I was so angry. But the communication piece helped me feel lighter so I can move through my anger and process the feeling underneath the anger, which is sadness, right? So that's another example that could maybe help you as well. And thirdly, I think that being okay with shifting the way you think things will unfold and the way you think you will handle certain things. And being okay with messing up because we are imperfect. There's this component, this piece of thinking that we need to be better, or thinking that we should have known, we could have done something. It's a sense of regret, the sense of guilt that comes up. And so I think it's important to identify ourselves when we are feeling that way, and to focus on the times when we were feeling empowered, when we were feeling secure, when we were feeling confident. The reason why I say focus on those times is because our mind likes to play tricks when it comes to guilt, when it comes to shame, when it comes to anything that will make us regret something. It likes to make us wrong for doing something, when at the end of the day, it's not necessarily wrong, it's that we didn't know any better. So of course, now that we are moved through that situation and we have perfect 2020 vision and we can look back, of course we would choose differently, right? That's common sense. However, we didn't know, we didn't have the 2020 vision, so we did the best that we could. So what I'm trying to say, to sum it up, is when we make a decision, and sometimes it wasn't the best decision, but we didn't know any better, and then we've learned and grew from it, so we messed up. Knowing that that's part of life, and that's how we grow, and that's how we create resilience, and that's how we can evolve as a person. But to hold on to the shame or guilt or could've, should've type of mentality keeps us stuck, keeps us small, keeps us replaying these emotions that are not really being processed. They are stuck, and it's keeping us in that frequency of dysfunction, and it's creating chaos in our body. And there's nothing wrong if that's where we're at. It's just being aware that that's where we're at, and to love ourselves in that imperfection, and to say, hey, it's okay that I didn't know any better. I'm not perfect. I am growing. I am learning. And through that experience, now I know better, and I'm going to choose something different next time. Even just self-soothing yourself with those words is what's going to help you move through that experience. So thanks for listening. I wanted to do video. I wasn't sure what I was going to say because, my inner beauty movement journey has all been sharing my own life experience, my own lessons, and it's really helped me move through difficult times in my life. And right now I'm moving through grieving a loved one, but in the past it was different situations. Like I was grieving a separation, I was grieving changing whole career paths, and I mean, these are all unique and different experiences. However, it still has the core essence of losing something that was meaningful to you, that you were attached to, that was part of your life for a long time. And so there's this component of loss behind it. And so here I am, opening my heart, being vulnerable again, because I was in the arenas, or in the seats of the arena for a while now. And I had to really sit with a lot of things that have transpired over the years. And so my last message is, I hope that you find the courage and the strength to step back in the arena in your own time. And don't let anyone take that power away from you, because you are very gifted, you are very unique, and you're very beautiful in your vulnerability. And when you shine, and you shine so brightly, there are going to be people that are going to be blinded by your light. And I wasn't confident enough back in the day to return in this arena. And this is why I haven't been sharing so much over the years. This is why I took a break on my business. This is why I've been really doing the inner work to use this this opportunity to discover why I was so scared to stand in my vulnerability, why I was so scared to share my gifts, why I was so scared of other people's opinions and judgments. And it's one thing to do it up here and another to actually take action. So, my love, take baby steps, go at your own pace. You can never get it wrong, and whatever is meant for you is always going to show up, because the universe has this beautiful way of always making sure that they send you a ship that you can jump on when you're ready. That being said, I love you all. Our time here is short, so live it like it would be your last.